We need to really focus on the China story here. As Mike just mentioned, you really need to get the real story of what's going on there. He goes every couple of weeks. China shares, let's take a look, are jumping the most in over a month. Overnight, China shares, the Shanghai Index, up 5.3%. This after the nation did a double-barreled shot in the arm of China. They did 2 interest rate chops earlier. So the last 2 sessions they did that, and then it appears that the Chinese government injected some liquidity overnight and started buying up shares. Now, cheaper valuations have been luring outside investors. Foreign purchases of the Shanghai stocks hit a weekly record. Foreigners are now seeing, now all of these names are really, really cheap. So we want in. The inflows totaling $28.7 billion. What did that do? It turned around the previous 5 sessions. 5 bloody sessions and erased a quarter of the Shanghai Composite's value. So now we've gained back about 5.3% for those Chinese stocks. But let's bring in somebody who speaks Mandarin and knows China implicitly. He is former Utah Governor Jon Huntsman, who was also U.S. ambassador to China. And we are so thrilled to have you. It's a Fox Business exclusive, and I've been thinking about you so much because not only do you have such an interesting take on all that happens there, but you know China. Can we really, really get a sense of what's going on there? Is it as bad or worse than it looks?
Well, Liz, first, it's great to be with you. The longer you're on the floor there, the better the market does. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, in order to understand what's happening in China, and I spent a lot of time there just this summer living in Asia once again, you've got to differentiate the equity market from the real GDP performance and where the economy is going in a larger, broader context. The laws of physics and sound money apply here, and they apply in China as well. You can only go so far with values, particularly in the Shenzhen and the Shanghai exchanges, that exceed, for example, the numbers that we've seen on the S&P 500 by 2 times. And so what we've seen is a natural correction. I think it's long overdue. They've lost 30 to 40% of the market value. And I think it's probably a very, very healthy thing for equity values in China. And I think it's a step closer to where China needs to be in terms of standardizing their exchanges so they're less casino and more mainstream exchanges. That's clearly something they're going to want longer term.
They almost look like casinos where the house is hovering way too closely, where the house, meaning the government, the People's Bank of China, are trying to put a pillow down everywhere they think these markets will fall. Please give us a sense, Governor Huntsman, of Xi Jinping, the leader in China. Is he facing political resistance? We heard on Monday, it's almost comical now, but it was chatter on the floor that maybe there were troop movements. Listen, troop movements is actually another way of saying, hey, look, there's some people who aren't happy with how the leadership has been handling the real stock market fall. How solid is his leadership right now?
Well, I think he's on solid ground. But what you've seen over the last couple of years really are 2 things. One is the economic fundamentals of China have been far worse than people would have predicted. And number 2, this anti-corruption campaign that Xi Jinping started at the 18th Party Congress about 2.5 years ago has been far more extreme than anyone would have thought. So you've got obviously different camps in China that are trying to stop Xi Jinping's movement towards economic reform. You've got a lot of concern and fright around the anti-corruption campaign, which likely will continue until the 19th Party Congress in 2017.
Oh boy,
we're going to know a lot more. We're going to know a lot more about what's in the head of Xi Jinping and the senior party leadership when they present the 13th five-year plan, which should be out first or second quarter of 2016. That's going to give us a look into where their real priorities are economically, the industries they want to focus on, what they're likely to do in terms of further reform of the state-owned enterprises, of which there are 110 major companies, 5 that are mega companies, and they need total reform. They need transparency. They need to change corporate governance practices, and they need to quit their practices of discounted cash, intercompany transfers, and discounted raw material prices for their manufacturing companies. A lot of changes ahead, and I think we're going to understand that more and more as we get toward the 13th five-year plan.
I hope they were just taking notes. I hope someone in the Chinese government was taking notes on all that you just suggested, because that is one heck of a laundry list. Governor, we asked our viewers for questions specifically for you through Twitter because so many people said, we've got to see Jon Huntsman. We want to hear what he said. Here's one that said, Ambassador, I've heard that part of the slowdown in China, this is from Jitsuno, is due to a de-emphasis on urbanization. I mean, you know, those ghost cities that they just started building up. But now they're doing a de-emphasis on urbanization. First of all, is that true? And if it's true, is it the policy driving the economics?
Well, what you're seeing is urbanization writ large in China. You're going to see a lot of people moving from the interior of the country, which is to say the Sichuans, the Gansus, the Qinghais, into the city centers. So you're going to see cities of 20 million like Tianjin, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou that are going to become cities of 40 million people. And what to do about infrastructure, what to do about healthcare, what to do about education, what to do about clean air, for example, which is a real problem for them. So a lot of their thinking is how do we begin to accommodate the inflow of people who are leaving agriculture. So China's a country going from 800 million farmers down to 200 million farmers. What do you do with 600 million redundant farmers? Many of them will move into the mega cities and look for more in the way of economic opportunity. So I think the ghost cities that you're seeing, and I saw a whole bunch of them just last month as I was taking the express rail from Shanghai to Nanjing. The government is building these in anticipation of the movement of people coming in from the rural areas into the city centers. It's a huge risk and a huge gamble, and it may not be that they fill them up, but they're preparing for that eventuality.
In 2012, you ran for president. I have to tell you, more people come up to me and say Jon Huntsman would have been an incredible president. Here's a tweet from a viewer. This is Mark Akay. He said, why wouldn't he run for president? To the 17 GOP aspirants, no one is better than Governor Huntsman. Go, John. Governor, do you have a horse in the race right now?
Well, I'm glad for family members weighing in via Twitter. That's very kind of them. No, you know, I've got some friends in the race right now, and I think, you know, with all those candidates, we're likely to see at some point a race to the top. We're seeing a little bit of race to the bottom right now. We got to see a race to the top when people are putting forward good, realistic policy solutions to the big issues that face us. And it isn't about the nonsensical stuff that seems to occupy much of the discourse today. It's about what to do about entitlements. It's about balancing budgets. It's about energy self-sufficiency. It's about a jobs agenda that's going to keep this country going, the greatest nation that ever was. We've got so much to be grateful for and thankful for, and so many great and solid elements of our economy to build upon. We don't need much to let this country grow and to really free up the aspirations of its people. And hopefully we're going to hear a little more talk about that from some of these candidates. We certainly hope so anyway.
Me too, but I agree with you. Thank you so much, Governor Jon Huntsman, and former U.S. Ambassador. Great to see you. Thank you. U.S.